Welcome back. Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Dean Macpherson has ordered an investigation into the deadly partial building collapse in Ormonde, Johannesburg. He's warning that the repeated incidents point to possible systemic failures in the regulation and enforcement of building standards. 9 construction workers died when the structure caved in on Monday, the third building collapse in the past 3 months alone. For more on this, we are joined by Tabisa Mtati, who is the acting CEO of the Engineering Council of South Africa. A very good evening to you, Tabisa. Thank you so much for your time. And I guess the obvious question here is why, in your professional opinion, why are we seeing such frequent building collapses?
Thank you so much, Masa, for the question. And thank you, Newzroom, for the opportunity for EXA to engage in this matter. Indeed, we have seen an upward trajectory as far as the building collapses are concerned. However, the first thing that we need to communicate to the public as EXA is that the Engineering Council of South Africa is responsible to regulate the professions and the engineering professional work within this industry. What we have also seen, Masa, is that the developers and also the communities, they appoint people that are not competent in line with the national building regulations, because they clearly state that you must appoint a person of competency that is registered with the relevant regulation. For instance, in Ormonde, when we're looking at what those pictures show, as the Engineering Council of South Africa, having sent our investigators on site, is number one, yes, the building is in an industrial area, and it looks like an outside, just a single-story building. But when you look into the picture, it was meant to be 2-story. Now, the question from our side, the professional engineering regulator, is number one, was there any professional registered engineer part of that construction? And we can safely say, looking at where the service street is, there is not even a allowable zone for you to build in there. So we are currently conducting an investigation as EXA to look into what went wrong. Yes, we regulate professionals, and the professionals, they understand the standards. And sometimes we find that the construction industry, as previously communicated, has been taken over by mafias, by people that are not registered. And therefore, EXA still has a role, because as part of our mandate is to protect the very same public that we are serving by ensuring that our professionals take accountability, our professionals comply with the standards. But maybe the other question would be, what happens when we don't find a professional in that project? It is still a responsibility of EXA to ensure that the professionals conduct the engineering work as stipulated by the Engineering Professionals Act. And therefore, we will still pursue legal, in line with our legal framework, some of other disciplines where we will process that investigation and hand it over to the relevant bodies, whether it is the SAPS or the NPA. But we can say that it is because of the professionals that are not conducting work that they are competent for, or those that are not even registered with the EXA as the structural engineers body.
So as the regulator, then what do you do when you have some professionals who may be putting the profession into disrepute when it comes to such building collapses as well? As the regulator, don't you have powers to ensure that this doesn't happen in the industry?
We do. We will say we do. The first thing that we are responsible for as the regulator is to ensure that such incidents do not happen by confirming the professionals that are competent. That's the first step to prevent. However, when such incidents have occurred, what we then look into, do we have professionals participating there? If we find that within that construction, there were professionals that did not adhere to what they should have adhered to, the building standards, the code of conduct of EXA, then it means that disciplinary processes must take on. And secondly, as EXA, we don't like to preempt what we would find in this type of cases. However, if one of ours who is registered with us, there are penalties that are imposed where life is lost. There is also where life is lost, which is the highest category of a misconduct. Therefore, and if we can prove that that was through negligence, you can lose your license to practice. Therefore, we strike you off the roll as a competent engineer that should be practicing within the building sector in South Africa.
It sounds like there are policies and mechanisms in place to deter professionals from obviously swaying on the wrong side of the rules and regulations. But if we are seeing an increase in building collapses, isn't it just fair then to say that as the regulator, you're failing?
No. I'll answer with a definite no. If we look at the cases that have been highlighted as from this one to George to the Durban and any most recent one, you would notice that EXA did take actions, and comparing the incidents to the number of construction activities or sites that we are having at any given time, the percentage of those incidents also needs to be considered. And where we, on all of these ones that I've just mentioned, your George, the current one, and the Verulam one, especially with the Verulam one, as much as it's still under investigation, the report has not been shared with the public, you find that you don't then get the competent professional in that project. The one that has been professionalized, if it's a structure that is a multi-story, you need a structural engineer to look into that design, not only just a civil, and also your geotech engineers if you are going a level higher. So the complexity of structures can only be understood by structural engineers. That's the thing that we want the public to understand, that having a cheaper cost for you to build does not automatically mean that you are therefore building a safe structure. These engineers are trained to be able to observe how that structure performs on the ground. Is it responding in the manner that it was supposed to at the design stage? They even do models to see how the outcome would be, and therefore we cannot say that these do not work. However, what you would find is that in this project, you do not have competent. By competency, I mean that you are a professional that has been certified to perform at a certain standard within a specific discipline. That's what then you go out and do. Anything else is fraudulent, we can say. Thank you.
Yeah. You know, also mentioning that AXA has also taken action. Would you say that sometimes this action is reactionary as well? I mean, the mayor said that there were confirmations that the building itself in Ormonde, I'm speaking of, was structurally not sound. Now, whose responsibility is it to, you've answered that, whose responsibility it is to ensure that it is structurally sound, but now they're going in to demolish it. Surely this is, it could have been preempted, it could have been prevented. As the regulator, do you only come in once the structure has been demolished, or are there preemptive ways and proactive ways that you go out there and note that actually some of these structures that we're seeing in the public domain don't comply, and then you go in to ensure that, you know, something is done about it before there are deaths?
All right, I will answer in this manner. The built environment sector and the construction industry is a complex industry with multiple different, multiple role players. You would recall that on the George report, there were issues that were mentioned that talked to fragmented approach to the building environment. Now, if we are referring specifically with Ormonde, looking at where those pictures that you have shown, maybe if you are able to pick them up, you will notice the pylon next to that. There are bylaws that are there within the city of Joburg that prevents for any structure to be built in such an area. Now, what the regulator EXA regulates is the actual professionals that conduct the engineering work. You would have building inspectors that are appointed by the municipalities, inspectors that are appointed by the Department of Labor that are also playing a role in there. You also have the other built environment professions, which we will refer to as architects or any other that is there. But all of these role players, they need to collaborate together to ensure that the delivery of the construction is up to a great standard. The reason that EXA is saying, in most instances, unfortunately, not all of them, we would find that there is no resident engineer that is there to prevent and to preempt. Remember, I said buildings, the structure has got a behavior. So when you do have a professional engineer that comes periodically on site, he would be able to pick up that no, there is something wrong, whether with your loading, with how the structure is being constructed at the time, that it needs to be re-looked into. So when you miss those professional and those different specialities, it's like when you're taking yourself to a doctor, you actually take yourself to a heart surgeon for a neurological problem. It doesn't work. That's why you need those specific experts and expertise on the ground to do what they do best together as a team.
And just finally, before I let you go, just for clarity, for my understanding, you're mentioning, needing these professional engineers on site as well. Where do you think the message is being broken? Is it from the developers and the owners of those structures who are perhaps cutting corners and not getting those engineers on site as well, and especially ones that have been approved by the regulator? And if you are a developer who does that, who cuts corners, as the regulator, what can you do about the developer, not necessarily the professional engineer?
All right. Again, ma'am, I would say that as EXA, we regulate the profession and their professional work. We also have other entities. As I've said, the built environment has got multiple role players. Now, when you're talking about cutting corners of the developers or of the contractors, it touches on different regulatory framework, including the National Building Regulation, which sits at the NHBRC, and also the SAN standards. So all of these things together needs to be looked into to see where is the crack, where is the gap. The report that was issued by the Minister Macpherson through CBE that talks to the George Meta touches on some of these systematic issues where we are not responding in a collaborated approach as these different entities that are managing just this one building that you see. For an example, the building that you see as a minimum, you would have about 4 regulatory professionals, a project manager on site, EXA. Even within EXA, you have different disciplines that will take part in that construction. Your mechanicals for the aircons, your electrical, all of these people, they've got different registrations. Now, talking to entities, NHBRC, the city has got a different role from what NHBRC is looking into those compliance issues. So yes, we can agree in this session to say that these things can be avoided if the developers are not looking into cutting corners and they follow the standards that are out there. They've got construction standards, they've got building standards, they know who are the professionals that they should be conducting. They submit building plans to municipalities. There are requirements of people that must sign on those building plans. So as long as we approach the building sector in a fragmented way, we might be challenged with not being able to circumvent the problem that we are seeing right now.
Tabisa, thank you so much for your time and just also helping us understand more of this. That was Tabisa Mtati, who is the acting CEO of the Engineering Council of South Africa.